Hola, witches.
Sup, homies?
Oh, watch out, watch out. Okay, y'all, so we're going to have some fun tonight. We are going to be talking about how to forge a daily practice with the Deviants. Daily practice is very important. We'll talk about the importance of it. We will talk about all sorts of things tonight. And if y'all have any questions, if you have anything you'd like to talk about in the comment section of the YouTube video, feel free. Say what you have to say. If you have any questions, put those there, and we will get back to you. And if you want to share with us like your daily practice, what you do, even if it's like every other day or whatever, your I guess your routine and your craft, if you want to share that and share what has helped you get that and how you've come to experience that, because sometimes it's a challenge to create a daily routine and it takes some time to really adjust to it and make it work. So definitely use the comment section and let us know what you do and what has helped you, because I know that there are a lot of people that will be watching who could benefit from that.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, so y'all, it's just gonna be a crazy night. I just got out of work and obviously with my smock and shit. And I've had a lot of coffee, had a lot of Red Bull, and I'm tired, so it's gonna be very interesting. We've had a very unique experience, a very unique day. But yeah, forging a daily practice. And I guess the important thing we should talk about before we get into creating a daily regimen is why it's important to create a daily practice, what the benefits are, and what it means when you don't have a daily practice or you don't have like a routine that you do to really keep up on your craft. So let's talk about that. Why is it important? Miss Melissa, the Dreadful Mystic.
Okay, well, so Michael and I were discussing this before the show, and it's anything with the word craft in it. That word is very key to your practice. If a carpenter was to work on a regular basis and then stop working for months, years, and then pick everything back up again, of course he's going to remember the basics, but his skill level is not going to be as good as it once was. And that's why people who create, who craft, who make things do it regularly. That's why Michael and I both have our businesses. No matter what, we're going to be creating pretty much on a daily basis. We're going to be incorporating the craft in our lives on a daily basis because it is not only our job but our passion. Just like an artist, anybody who has any kind of skill, they don't just, blow it off until the day that they need it comes around, like, oh, well, okay, I'm just going to paint this masterpiece real quick. That's just not how it works. It takes practice. Not to say that, granted, a painter who has painted most of it, for a long period of time, who stops and starts again won't still be a good painter, but he will notice that his skill level is different. He's changed because he hasn't practiced. And to me, that's the important part. Whenever you stop practicing or don't practice on a regular basis, you'll find that your magic, like with everything else, is going to be different. You're going to be different. You're not going to be as in tune to the things you were once in tune with. You're not going to be as adept at handling certain energies that you used to handle. So practice is important.
I absolutely agree. Practice is very important. And actually, it just came to me. I can speak about that on a very personal level because, a few years ago, I was very active. I exercised. I had a whole regimen. I was on point with my nutrition. I was on point with exercise. I was on point with everything, and I lost, like, in total, like my whole transformation. I lost like close to 100 pounds. That's just a lot. But I had that. I was very motivated. I had that mind space. I knew where I needed to be. I knew where I wanted to be. And I'm like, I'm going to get this done. And I worked at it, and I worked hard, and I did it. And as I was creating that for myself, there were other things that came up, you know, emotionally and mentally from other people from outside influence that I wasn't really ready to adhere to. I wasn't really ready to deal with. Um, but I was having like the physical changes and the spiritual changes and all the stuff that comes with, you know, shedding the excess weight. And for me, the excess weight was associated with a lot of different pain, a lot of different emotions, and all this other stuff, you know, on a very emotional, spiritual level. So as I released all that, I was becoming, obviously, I was becoming a different person. I was becoming more in tune with my authentic self, as people like to utilize that term. And I was finding out that I really loved that person. I really loved me. I enjoyed being that person, and that person is me. So I was experiencing my practice in a different way. I was experiencing the world in a different way. And it can be very scary. But I had that routine. I had that experience where I was doing this daily. I had what I have to do. What I'm trying to get around to is that obviously something happened and I slacked. I stopped. And so now I'm kind of back to, I wouldn't say square one, because I'm actually more mentally prepared, and emotionally I'm stronger and stronger in so many different ways. But I did put back on the weight, and that changes so much. And so once you get to a certain level and then you kind of revert back, you do have that knowledge, that understanding from what it took to get there. But getting all of that energy back on you, getting that weight back on you, it's like, it's depressing in a whole different way. You know, you're like, okay, well, I can get rid of it. But then you experience the world, you experience your craft in a different filter. It weighs things down. It makes you think of things in a different light. So it's just, I don't know, kind of rambling now, but I had a point in my head, and now I can't make it. So, I'm just trying to paint the picture where getting to that point, it is hard, but it's doable. When you revert back, if you do, you process it in a different way, and it's challenging. It's harder to get back to where you were because you have a lot more to adhere to. You have a lot more to process, and you thought you were done with it, but you're not. So, and that applies to your magic. That applies to your craft. If you're consistent, and you process, and you build your daily routine, you build your daily regimen, and you start practicing, you become more, and you practice more, and you uplift, and you change. And you change on a whole different level, especially with your energy and your power and your skill set. Okay? And so and we all do it, when you stop practicing, or if you stop practicing like for a year or whatever, months, you start to diminish your skill set, your power levels, whatever. What you're able to take on starts to diminish. And so those where you were strong, those muscles that you had, they're no longer as strong as they were, but your mind is, your memory is. And so sometimes you will act as that person that you created, or that person, that practice that you were at, but you are not actually able to handle the energy or to do as much, and then you have to deal with the repercussions from doing too much when you're not in that state anymore. Does that make sense? Am I rambling? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that does totally make sense. I mean, that's just the way it is, you know. Anytime you take a break from anything, regardless of what it is, you can't expect to be right where you were.
And it's so hard.
Right. And there's like some famous quote, but for some reason it's like leaving my mind. That would be so applicable right here. Oh. But anyway, I can feel it. Anyway, but that's what happens. You have this, ability that you have built, that you have perfected, and when you take time off, and I'm not talking about a few days, I'm not even talking about a month, I'm talking about an extended period of time off. 3 or 4 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. You might think, like Michael said, you have this, memory of the person you were, but you cannot take the time off and still be the person that you were, as far as ability-wise, and connecting with energies and just your practice in general. It's just not going to be the same. And I think that is honestly why so many witches get frustrated. God, I'm echoing for that. Anyway, I tried our echo switched. But anyway, there it is. It's better now. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So like, I think that's why a lot of witches get frustrated with their practice, because they'll take some time off, an extended period of time off, and they'll come back and it's like nothing's working, and so they just give up. Because they think that they should be at this level when they haven't been practicing like they used to, because when we first start out, it is like, oh my gosh, it consumes us, and you're practicing, you're casting like daily, and you're just totally consumed reading every little thing you can get your hand on. And after a while, though, that newness kind of wears off, and that's where you really have to actually have a routine in place.
Yes.
Because it'll wear out. Yes, because that new shiny wears off.
Yeah, I agree, and it's important. And another thing that's important is to, as you have your routine, your daily practice, your weekly practice, or your regular practice, what you're doing. You're not just going through the motions. You're not just keeping it fresh. You're trying to push yourself. You're trying to expand, and so you can't just stay on this level with your skill set, because that gets boring. You find that comfortable position. You get too comfortable in that energy, and you don't progress, and then that gets frustrating, and then you get spiritually frustrated, and that's also something that's annoying. But what you try to do is you try to expand. You try to raise it up ever so often. It doesn't have to be every time you practice, but ever so often, when you get very good at a skill, you want to take it to the next level, and so you want to keep, you want to try to keep moving up and up and up and up. So you just keep building upon your skill set. So eventually, you just become a very strong individual, and there's nothing wrong with take time to do that. We all know when we get very comfortable and we get stuck in a very monotone experience. And that's not fun. That's not something that we want. We need to keep engaging with the world around us. We need to keep challenging our skill sets. We need to keep expanding upon what we currently do. Okay, so it's very important, y'all. It's very important to practice, and that's something that's one of the reasons why we wanted to create this this video, is because a lot of people we talk to, and this is not coming from a place of judgment. This is coming from a place of concern, and also a place where, hey, let's talk about this. Let's build. Let's create something. Let's practice. Let's get shit going. But we have talked to a lot of people who don't practice, and they simply say, well, we just observe, or we just kind of read, or we're weekend witches. We are not weekend witches, y'all. If you're a witch, you're a witch, and don't be doing that shit just on the weekends. You live it. And that's another thing, but we'll get to that. And the coffee is kicking in, y'all. So but it's important to remember that you have to be consistent. And going back, we do have a lot of people who come to us who are just like, I don't really practice, or I practice, when I need something, I just practice, or, they're not consistent, and they come to us and they ask us why some stuff's not working, or how they need to do, or how they can do this, and all these different things that, with consistent practice, with a daily routine or regimen, they would know those answers. They would understand how to process it and even how to ask for help. Because when you ask for help, there are certain ways that things are expressed so you understand that that person's not really, they don't know what they're talking about. And it's okay if you don't know, but if you practice, you would at least have some sort of foundation to ask a question. So like I know like what I'm doing, but I just need that extra help. I need that extra space where I don't know this part. So can you help me with that? Um,
And even your most practiced witches get to that point. If you don't, then you are not pushing yourself. You're not growing. You know, there should never be a point in your practice where you know everything, because that, for one thing, I personally believe that is impossible. But also, you're not pushing yourself. If you're doing the same stuff, if you're still working with the same herbs and crystals and tarot cards and stuff that you worked with when you started 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago, you are not growing. And I'm not saying that to be mean, and if that's where you like to be, that's fine, but you can't work with the same stuff and think that you're progressing as anything. I don't care if you're a painter, a carpenter, nutritionalist, whatever. You can't, eventually, especially with nutrition, you plateau out if you don't, where you can't lose any more weight, you can't gain weight, because you're not doing anything more. You're not pushing your body any further.
right.
So the same thing with witchcraft. If you're not expanding and growing, you plateau, and then you'll sit there and be like, well, I don't feel like I need to ask any questions because I don't have any questions because I've worked with the same stuff for 10, 15 years or however long.
Right.
And that's an issue, and like I said, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if you're wondering why you don't have that fire or that spark, or why everyone seems to have questions but you don't have any questions, it could be because you are just not pushing yourself.
Right. And if y'all want to know how to work with Melissa and I on a very personal, intimate level to create a very strong practice, to have that support, to have that connection, to really build your daily practice, your personal practice, and to enhance your craft, and to really have, it's like boot camp, y'all. But if you want someone, some individuals, some other witches to really help you grow, we'll tell you about that before we finish the show. So we'll definitely tell you about that later. But before that, let's talk a little more. Again, y'all, practice, 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 practice. It's important. But what do we practice? That's something that we can talk about now. It's like, what do you practice on a daily basis? What do you practice? What can I be doing to enhance my skill set? What are my skill sets? Let's talk about that.
Well, I do not personally cast a spell every day, and I want to make that clear because I don't want anybody thinking, "Oh my God, they cast spells every day." I don't. I don't cast a spell like a written up spell every day. What I do is I meditate, I connect to energy, I converse with my ancestors, something. Not all those things every day, but it will be in that context every single day. Usually I meditate because for me that is the best way to ground and center and focus myself, because if I don't, I have days like I did today because I didn't meditate this morning. I was running behind and my day was crazy. I wanted to kill people before the day was over. So I needed copious amounts of wine at the end of the day because I just didn't follow, yes, coffee, just some sort of stimulant one way or the other, because I did not, follow my normal routine because I was it was just a crazy day and I was running behind. But most days, obviously not every day because I didn't do it today, but I did when I got home, so I felt better. But most days I will ground and center, meditate, work with some form of divination, whether it be communing with spirits, channeling, divination, tarot cards, runes, whatever it is, which I don't work with runes really. I've tried it and it's just not me right now. But I still keep trying because I want to expand and I want to grow. So I try new things. I know I'm very good at reading the tarot cards. I know I can read oracle cards. So I try, pendulum or scrying or rune. And if I suck at it, then I'm just going to try at it more until I hopefully don't suck at it. But it is something that is an everyday thing. I practice something that has to do with my craft every single day. Which I will say that Michael and I do have an advantage that some people don't because we have our own shops. So even if I wanted to put off doing something, it's like, well, I have a tarot reading, so I'm going to have to do something that involves my craft. Or I have 10 orders that I have to get out by the end of the week. So I have to be dating stuff. So we do have an advantage in that way.
But it wasn't always the case. We didn't always have our shops and such.
Exactly.
But and y'all, you just have to think of it like take your spell work and break it down. What is required for your spell work? Spirit communication most times, depending on who you are. If not spirit communication, there's some energetic exchange. There's a raising of energy. There is communication on some level, and then there's a heightened experience. You're raising your vibration. You're raising energy. Your energy to cast out, to connect with different forces. Ooh, look at my hands. But you connect with different forces. So that all requires you. And again, I'm going to travel. Okay, so you also have your psychic, expression where you connect with energy. You interpret it. So as you're casting, you feel things out. You connect. You feel, what it seems like and how it's going to go. You have all these, these spidey senses where you're getting feedback. And in order to get very clear feedback, in order to get very pristine and extreme results, you have to practice. And so you break that shit down, and that is what you create, and that's what you forge a daily practice with. Okay, so I know I'm going to have to start communicating with some force. And y'all, I don't care what you practice, you communicate with something. If you want to communicate with energy, the atoms and all that shit, whatever, nature, ancestors, dead things, dead people, anything, water bottle, I don't care. You have to communicate with something. And so that is something you need to work on. Work on your communication. Work on communication with spirit. Work on communication with, whatever. So you have that. You also have your energy. Work on understanding your energy. How can I understand my own energy? Meditation. Contemplation. Don't just meditate, but contemplate. And that's kind of when I contemplate, because it is different. When you contemplate stuff, you obviously get in a place of meditation. You get in that spot, and then you contemplate. Bring in something that you want to focus on. Bring in something that you just want to ponder and just allow information to come in. Allow that to happen. Contemplate and allow. And when you, I'm going to be saying contemplate every fucking 5 seconds. But when you contemplate something, you're understanding your own personal energy, you're understanding your own personal thoughts and how you react to things. And that response, the way your body responds, the way your energy responds, your mind works, that allows you to understand and comprehend how you work. And so that's very important, especially when you're casting and especially when you're working in spirit, when you're working with other entities, because the more you understand how your body works and the way you interact with other energies, the more you understand when it's you and when it's not you. And that is super important when you advance in your craft.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. As far as the contemplation of other things on your body goes, or on your energy, your body, however you want to put it, I like to take whatever herb that I have not worked with a lot, I will sit and meditate and hold that herb in my hand. And if it's safe to drink, I may make a tea with that herb. or if it's safe to burn, I will burn the herb, depending on what you can and can't do with that herb. And that will be kind of my focus throughout the day. I'll carry it around in a little sachet in my pocket. I'll consume it if it's consumable, whatever it is, and notice how the different variations of the way I use it affect my person. And really understand that, spirit. Again, with crystals, too, if it's safe to put the crystal in water, some crystals have bad reaction to water, I'll put it in some water that I'm going to drink the rest of the day and let it charge that water. Or I'll put it in my, pocket and I'll meditate with it. And I'll just kind of play with that item for a couple of days just to see the difference it makes in me.
Right.
And once I understand that, then I might, obviously if it has a negative effect, I'm not going to experiment on my family with that. But if it has a good effect, especially if it's like a crystal, I'll put a couple crystals in on my bedroom to see if it has an effect on my, my husband, or in my daughter's room to see if it has an effect on her. So you can play with things like that. And if you don't have people at the ready who don't mind you putting herbs and crystals in their various spots in the room, or are you giving them strange teas? Drink that. Tell me how you feel.
Right.
Yeah. But if you don't have that, if you have another witchy friend online that you're close with, and be like, you know what, I want to work on, snowflake obsidian. I haven't worked with that a lot, so hey, Michael, I'm going to work with this, and would you meditate with it or carry it around, and you tell me how you feel, and I'm going to tell you how I feel, and we're going to get to know this crystal better that way.
Yeah.
And it can be really fun, depending on what you're working with. Sometimes it can suck.
Yeah, sometimes it can really suck.
It can. Like if you don't realize that you have a strong reaction to obsidian in general, and you're working with obsidian all week, and at the end of the week you feel like shit, then now too much time with obsidian can make you feel bad.
And just taking it, even more basic, and it's super fun because a lot of people, we think we're super advanced on our craft and blah, blah, blah. But getting back to the basics is wonderful, and you learn new things, especially when you create something and you've been creating something for a long time. You're advanced, yes, but when you go back and revisit something from this perspective, you see it in a different light. So if you even take like a bowl of earth and just place your hands above it, feel it, process it, write it down, put your hands inside of it, feel it, take its energy, communicate with it, process it, and do the same thing with, don't be putting your hands in fire, y'all. Let's be smart here. But, you can feel the sun, you can do stuff like that. So do that with all the elements and experience them, do that on a daily basis for ever so often, like a week straight, work with earth, or, a week straight, work with earth and water, put your hands in some mud, get that clay you can put on your face and shit and make a mud mask or a clay mask and take it into that way. But feel its energy. Don't just slap it on and think that, we're good. No.
You can get those hand warmers that you shake up and they get warm.
Yeah.
Because that's a safe way to feel fire. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Barbecue, y'all. Just go out and grill some shit. And that's another way to kind of connect, have a bonfire, blah, blah, blah. That's another way to connect with the fire realm, and do stuff like that. But when you engage with that, you have to engage as the witch. We are all constantly the witch because that's just who we are. That's in us. But it's so easy to shift from that witch filter to mundane. And when we're in that mundane, like we're our everyday job, blah, 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 it's so easy to kind of switch off, even though it's constantly who we are, it's what we do. It's sometimes so easy to just like switch it off, kind of like, a lot of the Vampire Diaries, they have that humanity switch, and they say they don't click it off. It's just focusing elsewhere. Anyways,
Exactly.
yeah, you want to make sure that you're engaging with these experiences as witch. So all of your senses are heightened and you're paying attention to them and you're aware of them as you experience what you experience. So do that. That's something to add into your daily, practice. It's so basic. And then your psychic senses, when someone calls you, it's kind of hard to do now because we have caller ID and shit. But before you see your phone ring, try to feel who it is. What does it feel like? Tell your friend, like for a week, tell them to call you, but don't tell them at what time. Tell them to call you at different times whenever they feel inspired to call you. Tell them to call. You don't have to have a conversation for long or even a conversation at all, but have them call you, and you will know that they're going to call eventually, but you don't know when, at what time, what day, anything like that. So before you answer the call, feel the energy, feel what it feels, feel what it feels like, feel everything about it, process it, write it down, and then look, is it your friend? Who is it? And then associate all those things that you're picking up with that person, and go back and see if it's right. See if what you were feeling, what you were picking up, has anything to do with the person that was calling.
Yes, that would be so much fun. Or you can just connect with the energy of your phone and like tell your partner or whatever that's with you, during the day, like, I'm going to tell you before my phone rings within so many minutes, and make it a narrow window here. Don't be like, I'll tell you when someone's going to call an hour before it happens. No. Within 5 minutes, I'm going to be like, look at you and say, my phone is going to ring. And see if it happens. I do that all the time. And it doesn't even have to be, or you can even widen the spectrum there and say, I'm going to tell you if it's going to ring, if it's going to be a Facebook message, or if it's going to be a text message.
Right, I like that.
Like, oh, I'm going to get a Facebook message here in just a few minutes. Or I'm going to, someone's about to text me. Someone's about to call me. So that's a lot of fun to do. And it's still incorporating your craft in a daily regimen. This is still practicing on a daily and you don't have to do that, the phone thing, every single day. Just do it one day out of the week or every other day or whatever. Change it up. Mix it up so you don't get bored out of your damn mind.
Not only that, you don't want to do, you want a daily practice, but you want to make it customized where you're not, like you said, you're not doing the same thing every day, because just like with, building the body, when you're shaping it and you're creating it into a mold that you desire, muscles and all that, you don't train the same part of the body every day. That's not healthy. That's not good, because you have to give it time to repair. You have to give it time to rest and repair, because if you don't give it that time, you weaken it even more, and it's not good. It's damaging. So you want to, create a routine for yourself. Monday I'm going to work on clairvoyance. Tuesday I'm going to work on clairsentience. Blah blah blah. Something like that. It doesn't have to be exactly like that, but you're not working the same senses, the same muscle groups, the same psychic muscles, witchy muscles, whatever, on every day.
Right. You can incorporate a very witchy sense into how you do your regimen. Like for me, I'll meditate in the morning, and I sort of have it kind of programmed where, okay, whatever I need to work on, send me that message during my meditation. Call out to me, let me know if there's something specific I need to work on, and it'll happen. I'll get an image where it'll show me tarot cards, or I'll get an image where I'll show a specific crystal, or it'll show crystals in general, whatever, candles, oh, you need to work on some candle magic today. Just play around with it, come up with ideas. I don't actually have to cast a spell that day if I don't want to, but just writing down, let's say, what I know and different ways I want to play with candle magic in my grimoire. That in itself can be a perfect thing for you to do just that day, writing something down in your grimoire that you know a lot about, and playing around with it, and trying to not just write down the information you already know, but come up with new ways that you want to play with later.
Right,
It doesn't have
right.
to be today.
Yeah, and that's perfect because what I also want to address is, and this is something I'm super bad at, y'all. I'm like really bad at, and I need to get better at. Take your book of shadows, take your grimoire, take your black book, and write in it. Utilize it 4 days a week.
At least.
If you're not doing it every day, that's fine, but at least 4 days out of the week, you need to be in it, legit in it, like you need to be in it. And you need to write. You need to experience it. You need to place yourself in your book, because a lot of people create these books, or they have these beautiful books, and you just print shit out. That I understand why, and I've tried, like, I understand why, because sometimes your handwriting sucks and it's horrible, like mine, but it also takes away from imbuing a book with power, because your book of shadows, your grimoire, your black book, it's an extension of you. It's an extension of your practice. And so it's very important because you become aligned with it. And so it helps you almost, if you, I know y'all have seen Hocus Pocus, she'll be screaming book, and the book be coming with its weird old eyeball, but it's sentient. It has a life and energy of its own. And that's kind of very important for us to understand. And that's why it's so important for us to work with our books, because as much as we put ourselves into it, it becomes its own essence. And so when we need something, that book will speak. That book will talk. That book will say, hey. And you never know. Might open up to a certain page and be like, hey, who did that? I'm going to be working on that. But yeah. That's something very important, and that's something that we might play with, if y'all are interested in maybe doing like prompts again. If you're interested, I don't know. We might be doing more on grimoire work or Book of Shadows work or something like that. I'm feeling the call to add that. So that might be a project.
Right. Well, it's important because not only do you have, and it can be anything you want. Some people are like, oh, don't write down all the stuff you already know. Well, do that because you might forget. The more you learn, the more the stuff you already know goes to the back. And after a while, that back area gets crowded and kind of dusty. So write it down. I don't care. Write down all the moon phases and what you like to use them for. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a complex thing, and it doesn't have to look like it came out of the Practical Magic movie. It just has to be important to you. And I get wanting it to be aesthetic, and look really pleasing. She's like, oh, I want it to be an heirloom that's going to be passed down. Honey, if I could find something that my great-grandmother wrote, I wouldn't give a shit if it was chicken scratch. I would cherish the hell out of it because she was a witch, and that would be totally important to me.
Right.
So I promise you, they are not going to care.
Yeah, right. And if y'all want to keep it, pleasing to the eye, then go for it. But I will ask, and I will challenge you to have your printout and have pockets or spaces where it's just lined, where you can actually write in, where you can actually put yourself in there as well. So if you want to print shit out, that's cool, whatever. But do so where you can have places where you can actually write, and make sure to write in it. So any page that's just a printout, you should write on that page somehow.
Right. Exactly. And imagine, especially if you're wanting it to look pleasing to pass on, how much your people, the rest of your family and children's children are going to cherish those few spots of handwritten anything. How much they're going to rub over that and be like, oh my gosh, my great-great-great-grandmother wrote this, or whatever.
Right.
They're going to really cherish that. So that's something to think about. No matter how horrible your handwriting is. If you want to print things up because you're afraid it won't be legible, that's fine. But doodle around in the corners, write stuff down, even if it doesn't look all that great, it doesn't matter. The important thing is part of you is in that book.
Right. And so, like, now, y'all, forging a daily practice, what is it? You practice on the daily, meditation, contemplation, visualization. Wow, look at this shit.
I know,
yeah.
right?
Psychic work, tarot work, divination, all sorts of things. There's so much that you can, and grimoire work. Anyways, and just energy feeling, being able to, and you can do that like anywhere, picking up on emotions, trying to oh my god, y'all. I'm like trying to read body language. Like when someone, if you're in retail, you're helping a customer, try to read their body language as they approach you. Try to pick up on that and then respond to them. Do stuff that's going to initiate that psychic bond and that psychic response. And so you build that energy, you work at it, and it doesn't have to be something crazy all the time, but just keep it simple, have fun with it. Pay attention to the days of the week. What are they good for? What can I do, this day, or what can I work on today? And how is that in alignment with this day's influence? And, just have fun with it, but make sure that you're doing something on the daily to craft, to expand, and to have fun.
Right, exactly. And that way you don't get bored, you don't get burnt out because you're doing the same things over and over. And whenever something crazy comes up where you really have to rely on your magic abilities, they're there. They're honed because you've been working with them every single day. And honestly, there is no better feeling than knowing, okay, I can handle this no matter what it is whenever it pops up, because I work on it every day. So whenever, the refrigerator breaks down and I have $5 in my checking account, I know I can cast this fast cash spell and I will have the money to get it fixed and we won't have to stress.
Right. Absolutely. So, yes, y'all, leave a comment. Tell us what you do on a daily. Tell us any inspiration that you would like to share, because, we're constantly creating and recreating our practice. So it's also good to hear what other people do and how you feel about a daily practice, or how often you work with your skill set and how often you expand upon it. Anything you have to say, have to share, we would love to hear it. It's super important to connect and communicate and discuss. That's super important. But before we leave, y'all, Melissa and we have a project that we are creating. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Miss Melissa?
Well, we are looking for 11, right?
11
members. There are 11 people, 11 witches who really want to work and really get down and dirty with their witchcraft practice. And it's not necessarily a coven, it's going to be a circle, but it will be dedication, it will be work. There will be things you have to do on the daily. There will be things that you have to do, with us, and we will be doing it with you. So don't think that we'll just be like these people with whips and making you do stuff and just reaping all the whatever benefits. It's free, so I don't know what benefits we'd reap, but the benefits that we're going to reap is working with people who are excited about their witchcraft, who want to practice, who want to be a part of something, who want to grow together. But you have to work, and no excuses. If you don't do the work, you're gone. That's just the way it has to be.
Right, and that's something that we've been inspired to create, and we want to share, because I just had a long ass day. I went to work and I just got back home. I was there all day and longer than I was supposed to be. And then I came back here and I'm still in work clothes and I'm doing this. I don't make excuses. I try to make sure that I'm available. I try to make sure to do everything I can. And so every situation is different, yes, but both of us, we have so much that we do, and we still love what we do. We still want to share and expand, and we don't make excuses. We make shit happen, and that's just the way of the witch. And so that's what we were inspired to do, because we see a lot of people struggling and they don't know where to start, they don't know where to begin. And again, we have to reiterate that this is not like a teaching in a sense, like 101, and we're gonna like craft you, blah blah. No, we're gonna take what you know, we're going to share what we know, and we're going to start working together. We're going to create something. We're going to create a practice. We're going to do daily stuff. We're going to do weekly stuff, whatever. We are going to create, and we're going to cast, and we're going to practice, and we're going to do all this stuff that requires a lot of work. And some people have said, well, you guys are you're just too strict, and I have to be. We have to be, because that's important. If you're not strict, especially in this situation, this sense, then we become like the rest. We become too complacent. We become weekend witches. And I'm not doing it. I'm not saying that to be a judging person. I guess I am kind of, but it's not a negative thing. It's just we practice in a different way, and it's important to inspire other people to practice and create more for themselves and help them out. And that's what we want to do. We want to share what we know. We want to share and help people practice and grow as best as we can. We're not saying we know it all, but we are saying that we have a lot of practice under our belts, and we can share that with you. And we're going to, but you have to put in the work. You have to be willing to put in the work, and you have to be willing to take instruction and discuss. We're trying to help you. We're going to help you find your voice and be able to utilize your voice, discuss, share. You are going to be required to have a YouTube account, a YouTube video. You will be doing videos however you can. You don't have to do it publicly. It can be private, so you're just sharing with the people who will be a part of the group. And even if you just want to create graphics and just add your voice to it, whatever, but you will be required to participate in that way. And we will have a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So
exactly. And don't think that, when we sit here and say, yes, we're going to be strict, and yes, it's going to be strict, but don't think it's because we don't have busy lives too, because that's come up a lot. And I'm going to have to say I'm kind of irritated by it, because both Michael and I have jobs, we have families, we have a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in our day-to-day lives. And we still make time to do all of this. Like, this is our other job from the job we already have. We wear multiple hats, and we still make time and effort to do this. So there is really no excuse. I work 6 days a week, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. And I'm not downing anybody who thinks they don't have time for it. That's great if you understand your time restraints. We work 7 days a week. Because if we're not doing this job, we're doing our other job.
Right.
So, and that's, like I said, it's fine. If you know your time restraints and you feel like I'm just not going to have time for this, that is totally cool. We respect that, and we do not think any less of you. We just want people who are serious applicants that are going to use this.
Absolutely. So exactly, and that's so true. And we won't waste any more of your time, y'all. So if this is something that you might be interested in, you can contact one of us. You can, email us. I'll put the email in the description below, and let us know, your name, your full date of birth, and just tell us about your practice. Tell us why this is something you would want to be a participant in. Just talk to us, communicate with us, or just message us privately, whatever. But again, if you are interested in this, let us know. And people have been asking when we're going to start this. We will start this when we find 11 people. So the minute we fill the spaces, that's when it's going to begin. I can't say it's going to be tomorrow or next week. It might be a month from now. Who knows? But when we find 11 people, 11 witches willing to do the work, that's when we start.
Right. And we'll let people know, as soon as we found 11 witches, we'll go, okay, we've got them. Thanks. This is it. Also, 18 or older, please. Not to say that some of you younger witches aren't powerful and dedicated. It just makes everything legally easier. To be 18 and older, it just helps because we know you're an adult and at least legally in the eyes of the law. So
Right.
that's all I wanted to add.
Absolutely. So, y'all, let us know if it's what you're interested in. Comment and just have fun. And thank you for taking the time to be a participant in this discussion, this experience. And we enjoy having you here.
Definitely.
So, until next time, y'all. Peace.